The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover today, of course, because we're talking about inventory, and we're talking about inventory in 3 different softwares. So that is just a lot. It's just a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and get this ball rolling. Can everybody see my screen? If I can get like a hand raise or something in the questions area, that would be awesome. You can hear me okay. Might be a little echoey. Of course, I've got the neighbors, landscapers are here today. All right, let's do this. So starting off like we do with every webinar, just wanted to remind you a little bit about Fourlane. We have the 4 unique, what makes us very special here at Fourlane. So of course, we have been the #1 QuickBooks solution provider for 10 years now, and we look forward to continuing to be that top solution provider. We focus heavily in enterprise. Enterprise has been our product right from day one, and we still obviously very, very much so support that product. There are times when people need to move along up the road into a higher level software, and that's where we started to also represent an ERP solution for those customers who have definitely outgrown QuickBooks, right? We're not going to send you up that road until you're ready, but it does happen. So that is something that also makes us unique. There are very few people have bridged that gap between QuickBooks and ERP. Most ERP consulting firms that you talk to do not understand QuickBooks at all, and because we understand both sides, it makes that transition a lot easier for people. We're speaking the same language. Okay, we're also experts in accounting and systems. We understand what it means to have a balance sheet, why you should look at your balance sheet, the fact that you should be setting up your financials so that you can make business decisions, not just for tax purposes. And so we are able to coach people through setting up your system basically to get those results that are important. So we have to understand the system, of course, very much so, and then understand accounting output and what's important for tracking there. Then, of course, we're project managers for change management. That's what we do. There's major change happening, right? We're not just here to teach you things like how to, although we will teach you how to in the beginning, but we're here to take you through a change. All right, formula for success here at Fourlane. So, of course, we have many services that we offer, but these are just some examples. We're always focused on getting data. Data is the most crucial thing we have in our world nowadays. So getting you data so that you can make decisions in your business. That's what we're always going to be focused on. And we do some of these services here, right? ERP readiness, product conversion, software management. So some of these services here to help make sure that you are getting access to that data that you need. All right, so again, we're on a tight schedule today. So I'm going to start off here with our QuickBooks Online Advanced product. So of course, right now I'm in my, I don't have a sample file for this, but I'm in my QuickBooks Online Advanced file. And when I come into my products and services list, I can go in my little gear, I can go in and create a new inventory, non-inventory service or bundle, right, kit. So a new inventory part. In the inventory part, what I want us to take away today are fields available, right? So what can we set up when we set up an inventory item? So of course we have name, SKU, pretty standard things. We can have a picture in here. The picture is usable on lists, right? But it's not usable on templates. We have categories, so we can categorize our items, and this will allow for us to have better reporting, right? So we can run reports by item categories in QuickBooks Online. Initial quantity on hand, so it's a starting quantity, right? Reorder point, so we just have a reorder point here. What is the asset account, sales description, sales rate, and price, income account, purchasing information, cost, expense account, and then preferred vendor. Okay, so pretty simplistic fields. Most of the time, QuickBooks Online is definitely making leaps and bounds of strides, just completely progressing on a constant basis. Currently, however, it does not handle sales orders, so no fulfillment. So most of our clients are not using QuickBooks Online for inventory management, but I know it's going to get there very soon. So moving into QuickBooks Enterprise. So QuickBooks Enterprise, again, this is the product that we probably work with the most with our customers, or not probably, we do work with the most with our customers. When you're coming in to set up an item in the QuickBooks Enterprise file, there are quite a few things that you can set up in here. So first of all, just to remind everyone around the advanced inventory, so you can have multiple inventory locations and bins. You can have that in, you can have multiple locations in QuickBooks Online, but you can do bin tracking in here as well. We always kind of coach people, if you turn this on, that means, I mean, if you are struggling with doing cycle counts without sites and bins turned on, right? If you're struggling with your inventory quantity on hand without adding the complexity of sites and bins, then this might not be the right time to add this in. We need to create some processes to set up cycle counts and things like that, because it will add quite a bit into your file, and then also add quite a bit into your staff's processes, right? Now they don't have to just maintain one quantity on hand, they have to maintain several quantities on hand for the same product. Serial or lot number tracking, so we can turn those on here. You can do FIFO inventory valuation method, as well as standard costing. We can set up barcodes, and so you'll see that field enabled. And then we have landed cost features as well, so you'll see that when we edit the item itself. So when I come into QuickBooks Enterprise, okay, and I set up a new item, and I choose an inventory part. So you can see here, item name, standard. We can group items together. So like pool covers can all fall under pool covers here. This does not really categorize them in the way that you would think of by like class or, by category, as it said in QuickBooks Online Advanced, but it does allow for grouping on reports, right? So I could roll up all of these under pool covers on reports. We have the manufacturer's part number, which we can track in here. Of course, we can have a barcode number, so you can scan things into the system on most transactions, right? Not on an inventory adjustment screen or transfer ticket. We also have a class, so you can assign a default class, which is kind of like categorizing this item. However, there are some limitations around this with class, and it still is just a default, right? So people have the opportunity to modify that on a transaction. We can have multiple units of measure, so I can buy by the each, or buy by the case and sell by the each, or have some kind of crazy math that happens. A box is 37 eaches. You can set up whatever unit of measure set makes sense for your business. There is a limitation with unit of measure it can't go beyond a 5,000 multiple, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. So once you hit, if it's quantity of one equals, or quantity of one case is 5,000 eaches, it will not allow you to have that, and it won't allow you to go above that 5,000. So we have alternative ways to deal with that, of course, but just awareness with that. Purchase information, description, and sales description, pretty standard. Cost, a standard cost in here. Of course, it's going to keep for us either the FIFO or average cost in the system. Sales price, sales tax code. We have cost of goods sold account, income accounts. And then, of course, the asset account is down below here. We do have a preferred vendor, so we can pick that up as our standard vendor. Also in QuickBooks Enterprise, this is new this year, so we have the ability to manage alternate vendors. So I can keep track at the item level for every item. I can upload my alternate vendors price list, right? So I would keep track of what the last price we paid for them is, the last quantity we bought from them, the last time we ordered, what their price is according to their price list they've given us, a lead time, which is informational only, does not drive, how far in advance we should be purchasing or anything like that, but it's good to have the information. The vendor's part number, any kind of special notes in the system. So a lot of times we'll keep notes on, if they have quantity discounts or any kind of special discounting that we should have or expect. And then the last time we imported this vendor's price list would be maintained in here as well. Okay. So being able to track for multiple vendors, again, it's mostly information. It will, obviously having the information in there is very important, and the expectation is that it will have more use in the future. Coming along the bottom, so we have reorder minimum and maximums. So once you get below 10, bring me back up to 100, or you can just use minimum, right? Once I get below 10, tell me to reorder. And then we have some starting quantity information in here. Along the side here, I do have custom fields, of course. You can have custom fields in QuickBooks Online as well, just not as many, and they're not as functional yet, although I expect them to get more functional. We do also have the ability to have markups. So what this would do is if the cost changes, so like let's say on this item, I had a $10 cost and I had a $20 sales price. And then the next time I buy it from my vendor, the vendor gives me a cost of $12. So the system can either automatically or ask you if you want the sales price to be updated to $24 to maintain your markup and your margin. Okay, so we can set that up. Also, you can have quantity discounts in Enterprise. So we would be able to set that up. That'd be an additional button once I turn that on in there as well. Okay. So that is Enterprise, setting up an item in Enterprise. Oh, I did miss in a different place, not there, but you can drag and drop an image in the inventory center in Enterprise as well. Again, not, you can't move this image onto a transaction as an example, although we could do that through something custom, but it doesn't happen naturally. But you can add those images in here. So we've seen jewelers. I had a rug wholesaler that was using those images the other day. So that is there as well. Okay, moving into Acumatica. Of course, in the Acumatica module, we're in the inventory section here. We have a couple of different profiles, which is the same as what a list is in QuickBooks. So profiles are same as lists, right? So I have my stock items, I have my non-stock items, which would be like non-inventory items. I have my kits, which are kind of like assemblies. But if I go into my stock items here, I have a list of all my stock items similar to the inventory center. And then I can dive down and open up one of my inventory parts here. So you can see a lot of different information can be maintained along the top. So of course we can have notes tied to these particular items. We can add attachments to items in QuickBooks. And then we can also have notes tied to items in QuickBooks as well. It's just not, again, highly functional, but we can add notes in here. We can add activities tied to stock items. So this would be something like if we're reviewing our items list and we say, I need to follow up with the vendor and figure out whatever it is, right? Or I need to schedule a call with my production manager around or whatever it is. I can schedule an activity tied to an item, which I think is pretty cool. We can attach documents right into the item as well, just like you can in QuickBooks. So we have our inventory ID, of course, our item name. We have a status. Some additional statuses in QuickBooks Online. You could make it active, inactive, and in QuickBooks Desktop, active, inactive. And here you can have additional statuses. So like this is not available for sale. No request for this. This is inactive. Mark it for deletion. I mean, there's just more statuses, and we can build additional statuses as needed. We have the description, and then you can have additional descriptions as needed for purchasing sales if you wanted. We have a production work group and a product manager. Product work group and a product manager. So what this is basically assigning somebody who's responsible for this inventory part, right? Who's responsible for going in? You know, in QuickBooks, we have all these inventory parts, and we say, like, who's responsible for going in and getting the price list update from the vendors? Who's responsible for going in and editing the description once a year, or editing the price once a year, right? So this would say who's responsible for this part in our company. Now across the top, we have a whole bunch of different settings here, so I'm hoping to make it through as many as possible. So we have an item class, so similar to an item category. This would allow us to run, you know, P&L by item class. So that is a setup there. We have different types of items. So is it a finished good? Is it a component? Is it a sub-assembly? So we have those. Is this a kit, right? It's kind of similar to a build assembly function. A kit is similar to an assembly function in QuickBooks. They don't have a group item per se in Acumatica, although there's some customizations that can be made to make that happen. Inventory evaluation methods. So we have multiple choices on this: standard, average, FIFO, and specific. That's probably one of the things that we get asked for frequently in QuickBooks is I want the specific lot number pricing. I want the specific item. I bought this one item for this one customer, and I want that costing on the job to be specific. Tax categories, so similar sales tax categories. Posting class, so this is going to be, again, just another way to segment our data. And then do we track serial or lot numbers? In here it says lot/serial. You can do both still. It's not one or the other. You can choose to do both. So it could be lot yes and serial yes. Country of origin, any warehouse details, right? What's the default warehouse for this? What's the default issue from and receive to in here? We have units of measure, so we can have multiple units of measure, similar to in QuickBooks. It's just you don't have that 5,000 limitation. Physical inventory, so cycle counting, right? So what is their physical inventory cycle count or cycle method? And then also if they have an ABC code, any kind of movement class, if we need to have inventory rearrangement. Price and cost information. So we can have a price class. Again, that kind of helps with, you know, if there's certain items that we update every year and we raise the price by 5%. We can define that based on their price class, right? Or certain items that we, if they've been sitting on the shelf for too long, then we're going to lower their price so that maybe we can hopefully get rid of them. You know, they can be part of that price class. Pricing, just like we have product managers, we can also have different price managers. So people who are responsible for the pricing of these products. Where I've seen that come in play is sometimes pricing is not handled all the time by finance. Sometimes it's handled by marketing, as an example. So maybe product is purchasing department, product manager is purchasing department, but price management is a different department, right? So they're out there seeing what your competitors are doing. They're out there doing some, you know, A/B testing with your customers to see, you know, what price point is more effective. So that could be somebody different managing that. Is it subject to commission? What's the minimum markup? What's the MSRP? What's the default price? So we can have those additional fields showing up on the transactions. I know we get that question quite a bit in QuickBooks as well. We want to show the MSRP, and then we want to show their price, basically. We do that with custom fields in QuickBooks, but this has actual functional fields for those things. Any kind of costing information, so these would be filled in, right? So any pending costs, any current costs, last cost, cost statistics, average, minimum, maximum. So just a little bit more information showing on the screen there. Warehouse details. So this is where we can set and limit which warehouses this item can go into. All right. So you can add warehouse information here. Vendor details. So this is, again, uploading all of the information around which vendors we purchase this from, who our default or preferred vendor is, lead time in days, right? is, so they have lead time and then add days, additional lead time days, right, for kind of like that, you know, it takes them a little bit to process, or, you know, they say it's a 14-day lead time, but then it's really 16 days because of shipping or whatever it is. So you can have lead time, you can have minimum order frequency, right? So minimum order quantities per vendor, maximum order quantities per vendor. So just lots of information. Last price at the vendor we paid with this vendor, lots of information there. And these would be functional, so we can utilize these in preparing replenishment. Okay. Any attributes, this is kind of like custom fields. We can set up additional attributes. We can have images, and then any kind of additional categories that we wanted to track at the item level. When we're putting in orders, we can track packaging and sizes, right? So what's the weight of any one, what's the volume, packaging options by manual choice, weight, quantity, weight, and volume. We can pack each one separately. We can define, right, how many. So in a large box, 7 can fit in a large box, and a medium box, 3 can fit in a medium box, so that it kind of picks up for us what our packaging should be. Cross-reference. So what this would be is if for some reason a customer wants to place an order and we do not have the item in stock, these would be alternative items that we would potentially be offering to that customer. Also, if in kitting, right, if there are parts that are out of stock and we need to progress with the kit, there would be alternate parts that we could use in place of like that particular screw. Replenishment information, so we can set up the replenishment parameters for a particular item. So in QuickBooks, of course, with replenishments, we can say, you know, what's on in QuickBooks Enterprise, what's on a sales order, what is on pending build assemblies, and that'll drive how much I need to order. With replenishment parameters, we can do things like seasonality. We can do things like, you know, maintaining some safety stock. We can have, again, minimum, maximum quantities, any demand forecasting, what model we're going to be using for our future demands. So how many periods do we analyze going backwards in order to figure out what our demand forecasting should be? There's some additional functionality that we can do there. Any kind of deferral settings. So if this is a part that we have deferred revenues on, so where would those deferrals be hitting? Which GL accounts they're hitting. So this is a lot more elaborate because, you know, we have account codes, and then we can also have sub-account codes in Acumatica. You can have multiple sub-account codes. It's, again, just different ways to splice data. It seems highly overwhelming when you first go into it because there's so many different places you can put data. And a lot of times when we see files from like when people have gone in and set up Acumatica on their own, we'll see a lot of repetition. And in my demo file too, you'll see a lot of repetition. Some of the information that's in the sub account is also in the item class, is also in, and of course, when we're going in and recommending setup, we're not going to have that repetition. You don't need to have to put the same data in multiple places. You just want it in one place so that you can report accurately and get good, accurate data. Okay. So if there's any kind of accruals, if there's, you know, price variances, landing cost variances, where it just, you know, where are all of these things going? Okay. All right. There are further, because I have a little arrow here. So we have any restriction groups. So is anybody not allowed to access this data? So like these, we do not sell to international vendors. These we do not buy from international vendors. We do not sell to international customers, right? But this one's active and the rest are not. So are employees limited from seeing or selling these particular parts? So you can access, you can limit who has access to these items. Okay, this is to one particular item, of course. And then, of course, the description. So I know I mentioned earlier, you have some basic descriptions in there, but we can do some more visual, and using, highlighting multiple colors of language, bolding, different paragraphs, different layouts. You can insert tables. So you can just get a lot more elaborate with your descriptions here. Okay, along the top, of course, with actions, we have update cost, view restriction groups, and we can change the inventory ID part. And then, of course, we have some reports tied to our inventory parts as well. We do have that in QuickBooks too. So if I highlight, I have some reports tied to any particular item that are kind of quick reports that may be helpful for me with that item. All right. So hopefully you guys were able to take away, again, the goal is today just to see what is possible, learn what is possible as you progress. Not everybody needs all of these fancy fields, right? That's a lot of information to track and a lot of information to update, a lot of information to maintain. But when you are ready for it, of course, when you need it, you need it. And so then we want to be able to help you progress into the next level product. I'm going to go ahead and hang out for a minute. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and let me know. Usually there's tons of questions. I can't believe there's no questions around inventory. Inventory is, I think, one of the, although in the ERP space, I think most people, wholesale distribution, inventory management, maybe not manufacturing, people don't like to get into that so much, but I've found that a lot of people don't like to touch inventory. I think that after all these years, I didn't really understand it. I thought, well, maybe it's just because it's just an extra thing to track. It's an extra step, right, between the purchasing and the sale, and people don't want to have to deal with that. But I think what I've narrowed it down to is the valuation. People have sometimes just struggle with tracing back that valuation. So, all right. Okay, so we have a question. Where does the barcode not work in Enterprise? So there's a couple things with barcodes in Enterprise. So you can use it on transaction screens. So if you're on a purchase order screen, if you're on an item receipt screen, on a sales transaction screen, sales receipt, invoice, sales order, you can use a barcode tied to your computer, right? So a Bluetooth barcode, even if it's a wireless, it still has to have a Bluetooth-based connection. It does not work on an inventory transfer, right? So when you're transferring inventory between warehouses, this is for Enterprise, QuickBooks Enterprise, and it does not work on a inventory adjustment screen. Okay. However, for inventory adjustments, you can do cycle counts now, and you can do cycle counts on an Android device. And on the Android device, you can use a barcode scanner, right, tied to the Android device, not tied to your computer. So that is an alternative way to kind of use barcodes towards that transaction type. Okay, in stock item screen, can we set same item as a regular item as a kit component? I'm not sure what that means. If you can elaborate on the stock item screen, can we set same item as regular item and as kit component? Okay, so maybe that, oh yes. Can the item be something that is a finished good and a kit component? Yes. That item type there is just specifying, right? It's just, again, informational. It's not going to limit you unless you choose to make it limit. You can set it like limitations, of course, set restrictions. Does it track expired dates? So you can track expired dates in Acumatica, and you can have prompts for, showing me what's expired next week. You can do FIFO picking or expiration-based picking. in QuickBooks Enterprise, what we coach people on is to put the expiration date in the lot number date, and it works, right? We can make it work. It just won't necessarily like alert you. There won't be alerts or triggers, but we can build reports if you want to around that. Okay. All right. If there's any additional questions, just feel free to reach out to us, and we can. Okay, actually, we can answer those couple of questions. So I do see a couple more just coming in. Let me go ahead and knock these out. So one says, where can I find out information about point of sale? So if you want to email me, you can go ahead and email. I'm not quite sure what that means. Point of sale in Acumatica or point of sale in QuickBooks. We can get you that information though, for sure. What do you recommend? Would you recommend this software for a high volume supermarket? So no, this is not a point of sale software, right? Acumatica is like a QuickBooks. It's a financial software, back-end financial software, but it has point of sale apps. So we could definitely get you information on the POS section and then it would connect into the financials as well. And then what is a kit like in Acumatica? Is it like groups? So no, kits are like build assemblies. Groups is something that doesn't really exist in Acumatica. You can kind of use them in that way. So the thing that it doesn't do naturally that we have to do a customization is, in a group, when you can say, I want 10 groups, and then it fills in and expands that quantity of 10 times all the single unit costs down the line. So Acumatica doesn't have that natural, like how a group item has in QuickBooks. So it's just a quick customization that we add on the top, and we say, like what is our factor of 10, and then it'll expand it down. Anyway, it's not natural. We've had to do it for clients before. This group item concept is unique in QuickBooks. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Please stay safe out there. Bye.